Thank you so much for coming to this Inform Your Community event. I think we might have some people joining us as the movie ends for some other folks, but I'm so glad to have everybody here. My name is Stacy, and I am a white woman with salt and pepper hair, and I'm wearing dangly earrings and a gray shirt. And so glad to have you here. For those who need it, live captioning is enabled. And by the way, my background is just kind of a white background, and I have a picture there of some flowers. So we're so glad to have you here with us today. And at Inform Your Community, we combine fun events with important information. You can find our social media links on our website, www.informyourcommunity.org. And as always, you can find our sign-up list for our mailing list, as well as our donate button there as well. So please do help us to keep our events free. It's also important to remind everybody that we're going to be discussing some, interesting and complicated topics related to our wonderful topic today, maternal health. But we want to make sure you're aware we're not doctors. So obviously you don't want to take any comments that we say related to that as if we were doctors. So please do seek out the proper, proper people for those kinds of that kind of advice. Also, this is such an important topic for us. We often don't realize that when it comes to maternal health, that it really counts as a very long period that counts as maternal health. We tend to think of it as just the birth part of it or as the pregnancy part of it. But actually the perinatal period could be 12 months before the birth, could be up to 24 months after the birth. So there's a lot involved in that perinatal period. And when we talk about maternal health, we're really in that potentially 3-year span of time, which is just amazing to think about. Also, we want to mention that although this movie in particular was focused on heterosexual couples, that obviously when we talk about maternal health, women who give birth and related language, that we're intending to be inclusive of the LGBTQ plus community. And so it's not just about, pregnancy and birth. Maternal health is not just about, straight women in heterosexual relationships having babies. So, but we are so glad to have you here. I hope you enjoyed this What to Expect When You're Expecting movie and this maternal health topic. To understand this a bit further, I want to introduce you all to our facilitator for our question and answer today, who is Hanali. So Hanali, thank you so much for helping us with this important discussion today.
Thank you, Stacy. Good evening, everyone. My name is Hanali, like she said, and I'm the program director for Popcorn and Chat program at Inform Your Community. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm an Indian woman. I'm currently wearing a white top with blue flowers. And I have black hair, black eyes, and my background is this gray board. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get started. Feel free to unmute yourself for our discussion when you have comments, or you can type it in the chat box or use the raise hand icon in the Zoom. And so, yeah, so thank you everyone for joining. And I hope everyone enjoyed watching What to Expect When You're Expecting. It is so important to discuss and spread knowledge about maternal health, which covers a long period, not just birth, and includes throughout pregnancy, childbirth, and postnatal periods. And to start this discussion, what are your opinions of how maternal health was portrayed in the movie? Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, Hanali.
What are your... Yeah.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. My name is Stacy. Nice to meet you. Hi, everyone. Obviously, this was, done in a fun way, but I think I like that it touched on, a couple of different scenarios and how, some of the mental health issues that birthing people do feel and go through, in situations, whether it be adoption, and it touched on miscarriage, and maybe someone feeling beautiful and someone not feeling beautiful. So all those things do affect mental health. I'd like to also say that I'm a birth and a postpartum doula, so I do birth work pretty much every day. So I do work with families in all these situations. So
Oh, that's really interesting. I would
yeah,
love to know more about your experiences and everything that, you've experienced throughout, your daily experiences. So
yeah.
throughout the disciplines. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Yes, Jessica?
It also touched on somebody who almost died while giving birth too. So, which is a big issue, I guess, too. I don't really know. Just because there's a lot of blood and people bleed out. So, mm, mm.
Yeah,
For sure.
It's not just so it's mental and physical that it showed, which I thought it did a good job of that. I have to say, after the miscarriage, so I had 2 miscarriages myself, and before I ended up giving birth to my daughter, and I was crying with the miscarriage scene. I have to admit it. It definitely touched a nerve.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I agree, the movie did a fantastic job of demonstrating different things that women experience during pregnancy, and the risk involved. And not every pregnancy is the same. So that was really interesting to see different perspectives. And I think it's also important to understand different high risk factors during pregnancy. The term high risk in regards to pregnancy refers to when there is a higher than normal chance that a pregnant woman and her fetus may face complications. And risk factors may include pre-existing diabetes or chronic high blood pressure, to name a couple. So what resources would you recommend to understand issues around maternal health that you're aware of?
Definitely your providers. Yeah.
For sure.
They're and they're the people on your part of your birth team that you've chosen, to put your trust in, so you definitely would turn to them first, whether it be midwives or OBs, and any support people you enlist, from there to support you through the entire process.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. And so and healthy, I guess a healthy birth, even when a woman is not considering high risk, requires considerable effort and resources. Like you said, the maternal health care team, like it could include OBGYN, family physician, doula, midwife, pediatrician, lactation and feeding consultant, or fertility specialist. So just leaning on to those resources is very important during that time frame. And additionally, understanding different points in history that could impact how maternal health looks today is also important. Like, for example, in August 1935, Title V of the Social Security Act was signed, allowing for a full range of medical services and resources for maternity, infant, and childcare. And then in 1951, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists were founded in Chicago. And then in 1970s, Title X Family Planning Act was passed. And then in 1990, the NIH, National Institutes of Health Offices of Research on Women's Health, was established. So a lot of progress has happened over time. But despite these initiatives, in 2005, researchers noted that a significant increase in the rates of preterm birth and low birth weights in the US, and in 2021, approximately 1,200 women died in the US each year as a result of pregnancy or its complications, with poor populations and Black populations most affected. So understanding these historic timeframes, I think, is really important to understand how we've evolved in terms of maternal health. Yeah, and then because of advocacy work related to healthcare activity in 2023, the Black Maternal Health Omnibus Act was passed to help preventable maternal mortality, which is also a progress towards bettering maternal health. Yeah, and I think I just saw a comment in the chat box. I think
Mhm.
Stacey said, and friends and family of others who have gone through similar experiences are important for sure. Understanding, leaning on to your support system, not just the physicians, but also learning from other people's experiences is also really important. And talking to people. Yeah, and some of you guys may have found this movie to be a powerful movie. Why was this movie powerful to you? What was something that really touched, and why you think this movie was something that you really wanted to come and watch for this event? And I know the movie touched on various different topics and various different types of pregnancy and motherhood. So I know some parts of it, like Stacey said, some parts related to her a little bit more than others. But I think it had a little bit of something for everyone. So I wanted to know why this movie particularly was powerful to you and why it stood out to you, if it did.
I think the adoption is really powerful too, because I know somebody who has a sister who tried to adopt a baby for many years. I mean, she went through years of like trying to get pregnant and then not being able to get pregnant, and then IVF and the adoption process you think is going to be easy because there are so many unwanted children, but it's not. And that's what surprised me most when I was talking to my friend, whose sister went through all this. And she finally got a child after like 5 years of trying to adopt, because every time she would try to adopt, she would fly. I mean, the couple would like fly someplace and like Kansas or Missouri or wherever they flew to, and the child that they were supposed to pick up, the mother would change their mind, or the grandparent would step up and take the baby. I think the choice is wonderful, but but the depth of sadness that this woman felt every single time was like having a miscarriage.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, there's grief every time surrounding that because you get built up excitement and then grief. So there's highs and then lows, and yeah.
but one finally came available, and now my friend's an uncle. So yay!
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think I didn't know how hard it was, how adoption was that as hard as, I thought it was, as I know that there's a process for it. And I think that portion of the movie was really, I guess, insightful for me. I didn't think that it was as complicated to adopt as mentioned. And then, so yeah. While such improvements are great, we have a long way to go until everyone is aware of different maternal health issues that women face, and even longer for us to be mindful of it when interacting with others. Notable people like Ina May Gaskin, Martha May Elliott, and Tori Bowie have made major impact on maternal health awareness, we encourage you to look up those names, and we will put them in the chat for you. And it will also be in our infographics when it is posted on our website. So feel free to look at those, get on our website and look more into those people who've made a great impact around this issue. And so how do you think as a community we can help each other going through different maternal health related issues? I know that we can rely on our support system, like healthcare support system, but I think how can we help as a community overall to people who are going through different maternal health related issues?
I would say show love and support, like support yes, with your healthcare provider, but family, friends, support. There's always a term, like find your village, like your village is support. It takes a village, there's all those terms, but it truly does. So, surrounding yourself with, people that can help in situations, and sometimes they just kind of take over and enlist like a meal train, or be there to help with advocacy, like helping with education and knowledge, to really empower, whether it be yourself or a friend or a family member through the whole process. Education and advocacy are like two main things.
I'm
Right.
I'm wondering whether or not anybody has an opinion about what the reversal of Roe versus Wade has on all of this, has on maternal health.
I think I saw a couple of chats. Oh, that's so Stacy mentioned few names that I mentioned earlier that you guys can look up if you want to. And yeah, information is great resource that we can help promote.
Sorry, I was just gonna say to follow up with Jessica. I don't know the the research on it, but speaking of information, it's definitely a big issue. So there's definitely going to be kind of repercussions and changes and everything because of that. So in terms of what Jessica said about overturning Roe versus Wade, what those are, I don't even know if people can imagine what those might be at this point, but somebody's doing research on it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess being knowledgeable about what's going on politically is also, really important to see how it'll impact different upcoming timelines of maternal health related issue. Like we talked about the historic timelines. I think these are in the making for the future timelines. So it's very important to keep up with those. And just, I guess, information, like I said, is a great resource to keep yourself educated and help promote evidence-based care and family-centered care. For example, just looking up statistics can bring you insight into what someone or even you may be experiencing. And so, yeah. And I think everyone's experience during pregnancy looks different. Like how it was shown in the movie with some mothers having a terrible experience compared to the others. Considering this, what should we stay mindful of for our own pregnancies or with others who may be or who are pregnant or planning on getting pregnant?
I'd have them watch the movie.
I think exactly what you said is that everyone is different and not everyone's situation is the same, and not there's so many stories that you can hear, whether they're good or they're bad. And then, sometimes I think the word might be empathy, but maybe I'm thinking is like be empathetic to like listen and be in the moment when you're speaking with someone that is with child, and kind of see where they're at and how what you could say like might kind of change perspective, whether they spiral downwards or upwards, you know. So you know, it it's a sensitive, sometimes a very sensitive situation, you know, for some. So like empathy and like really active listening, I guess you would say, is key, you know. I think when you're supporting and listening to someone tell their story or what they're going through, active listening is definitely very helpful to someone in that moment, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One of my friends actually, she had a girl and she lived in the apartment building that wasn't too far away from me. And I thought that she would need time to bond with the baby. And she said to me, well, why didn't you ever come over? And I said to her, you know me for 20 something years and you don't tell me that you're struggling.
Aw.
That's not on me, that's on you. You know, I mean, you have to tell people something too, because I would have. I mean, you know, I thought that she would
Yeah,
just be breastfeeding and bonding and, you
right.
know, and
But that's the thing with postpartum is many suffer in silence. And,
right.
you know, they don't realize, you know, there's a fine line between baby blues and then, you know, having that continue and really needing the support circle.
Mhm.
You know, and they sometimes think you can fight through it and power through it, but you know, then there's the but, you know,
Right,
like,
yeah.
um, you know, it oftentimes
Mhm.
takes, you know, people and support to, um, you know,
So
really
with her
get that and
second
ask for
baby,
help.
so
Yeah.
with her second baby, I was calling her and see, are
There
you
you go.
okay? Are
Awesome.
you okay?
Yeah.
It's so hard, I think, to like even like if you don't have a kid and you haven't had kids in your life or other people who've had kids in your life, I think it's really almost unfathomable to understand what it's like. It's such a different experience.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a beauty of this movie, which I didn't know going into it that it was going to be, you know, that real, so to speak. But I think that's the beauty of this movie is it really like, well, no, yeah, no, that was like it. Yeah, and Tyler put in the chat, nothing anyone says prepares you for it. And you
Yeah.
also you think yours is going to be different, right? Like, yeah, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Everything will be fine.
Yeah.
I remember well before I had kids. I mean, maybe I was all of 2019, 18. And I asked somebody about their pregnancy, and Stacy was saying about different, you know, every pregnancy is different, everybody's pregnancy is different. But this woman was telling me about it was her second child, and I was like, oh, so how was it? And she was like, oh, it was like blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, cool. And I'm like, oh, that was probably what your first kid was like too. And she was like, oh no, my first birth was entirely different. It was entirely different. And the same thing for me. I have two kids, and both births were entirely different. So it's even when you've had one,
Yeah.
the second one is just a whole nother experience. You can't
Mhm.
even from one to the next, even in the same person, that it will be the same experience. So it's so hard for somebody who doesn't have the experience to even fathom it.
Yeah.
And even as you're going through it, you don't know what happens tomorrow. You only know what you're experiencing today. So it's very difficult. I
Well,
remember saying, I only one time I came close to kind of depression or, you know, something like that when I was after my kids, after my daughter, and I had convinced myself that I had to be like a superwoman. And I remember like my mother had to force me to go to sleep because I hadn't gotten any sleep in like, you know, a very long time. And she's like, you have to go to sleep. I'm like, but no, I have to take care of the baby. I'm the mother. I'm supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do this. And
Mhm.
clearly I was out of my mind with exhaustion because that makes no sense. Like Stacy said, it takes a village, or Hanali said it takes a village. Both of you guys might have said it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you need help, you
Yeah.
know? because the kid needs round the clock care. But I had convinced myself that like I was a failure. I remember crying myself to sleep because
Aw.
I had convinced myself that I was already, the baby's like a week old and I'm already failing the kid because I couldn't be the one to take
Yeah.
care.
A lot of
It really,
pressure.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's hard. You don't know these things like as
Yeah.
you're going through them. Yeah.
One thing I want to add about the movie that again, they did it in a fun way, and I love the movie for all of that, like, the comedy, um, is the partners, the dads, or, the partners, and the group of partners, like, meeting, um, you know, th- I like the focus on the partner unit, and even throughout the movie, how, in birth, how they showed what the partners felt, even if it was just a facial expression, you got the gist of like what the partner themselves were going through. So even in the postpartum phase after the baby, and even like mental health affects the entire household, the entire family as a whole. So, to depict that, I think, was good, I like that about, um, that it showed, everybody in their one-on-one, like situations. So
I
that's
agree.
important. It's important because you know, it affects everybody. So
Good point.
Yeah, that's right. And as a community, we can increase awareness of resources available to people that need it. For example, only 50% of companies with more than 50 employees have a designated lactation room for employees to pump breast milk. So knowing about these facts is also really, really important. Also make sure you don't accidentally treat someone who is pregnant like she has an illness. Of course, pregnant women can have illnesses, but pregnancy is not an illness. So understanding that and going in with that mindset to talk to somebody who is pregnant is really important. And it's also great if you can go out of your way to have a conversation with a pregnant person or a new parent that focuses on that person's life unrelated, and it focuses on that person's life unrelated to the pregnancy or parenthood. And if you are in this perinatal period, make sure to have some time to regenerate. And if you aren't, then give or help give others their time to regenerate. It's also important.
I was gonna say, sorry to cut you off. I was gonna say with the talk about, talk to somebody who's a new parent or who's pregnant about something other than the pregnancy or the baby. And I just remember at work, every conversation, the first question when I was pregnant was, so how's the baby? How are you feeling? How's it going? And meanwhile, here I am like a researcher. I do research, I publish, and all of these things, and everybody just wanted to know about how's the pregnancy going, so I felt very much like I'm still a person in here somewhere.
yeah.
And of course everybody was so well-meaning. It's like they were genuinely curious, like, how are you doing, how's everything going? And
Yeah.
Like if somebody asks you, how are you feeling? What's happening? What's going on? And then they just leave it. Would that make you feel different? Like, let's get this over with first and then come back to it and then like go back to work. Would that have made you feel different? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's interesting because I guess the flip side of it is like nobody asks you how you're feeling. You're like, what the heck? How are you not asking me how I'm feeling?
I'm out here, I'm a giant person. I mean, not you, but
But I would say it happens so much. I mean, I don't know if other people share the experience. I'm guessing they do, but it happens so much that the first thing is always the baby, that it's sometimes it's nice for it not to be. So, to be like, so what have you been working on lately? Other than the baby, what have you been working on lately? Or, that kind of thing. I don't know. Stacey, in your experience, do you have any advice on that? Like what should you Or you like just ask them how they're doing?
Yeah, I think just adult conversation. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had plenty of, yeah, many have said like they're just tired of talking about just nursing and feeding and diapers and, and I think it's just, I think after giving birth, it's that struggle of really finding yourself. I think that's why we feel that. I remember I, like you, felt that too as a mom. I had two births, and yeah, it's like I'm a person too, like I want to talk about like, the what I did, like this morning or like something that I'm working on. And, but yeah, no, I remember I can definitely relate to that. And I think anyone after birth, I think again, they're just trying to find that happy medium of having adult conversation that does kind of exist around their likes and interests also, and not just identify as being a parent, it's like there's more to me here,
I wonder if it's somehow akin to like somebody being, and I don't know if this is true, but it suddenly seems relatable in other ways for, maybe folks who like, they speak with an accent and they always get asked, oh, so where are you from?
Yeah,
Right? It's like the low hanging fruit,
right. Yeah,
for the conversation, you know? Yeah, I imagine it's that same kind of like, oh,
yeah.
great, I'm being asked that again. Yay.
I think in certain situations, it's one of those probably questions like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Because if you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
say, how are you? It's so open-ended that, then you're kind of setting up for, well, how do you think I am? I just gave birth, Like,
So basically, there's no winning. Sorry,
there may
Jessica,
not
there's
be. I
nothing.
mean, it depends. So it kind of goes back to like every situation is a little different, so you don't know what you're gonna get.
And to me, as a disabled person, talk about being treated differently. Every person, an individual, and if to me, I think that people need to say, "Hey, wait, I'm a person," and you know,
Yeah.
you do it with maybe. I know I'm pregnant, or I know I have a
Yeah, yeah.
disability. Thank you for reminding me again. Can we talk about work now?
Right,
Something
exactly.
funny, like make a joke out of it. What? I'm pregnant, or what? I have CP, like, oh, damn, I wish I left that at home today, sometimes you just have to like work around it, and just have a sense of humor about certain things.
Great point. Great point. Sorry to cut you off, Finale.
No, I'm
No,
sorry.
you're okay. I'm enjoying the conversation. I think for me, I mean, I can't relate with the pregnancy experience, but I think for me, it's asking where I'm from, and they don't necessarily mean where I'm living currently. It's usually what's your ethnicity. I get that question a lot, so I relate in that sense of okay, well, this question I get quite often, especially with the new people that I meet. So, um,
It's
so yeah,
interesting that it's relatable across the different contexts.
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, so
Oh, I thought I left my accent at home today. Or what? Yeah.
I like that one.
yeah. And yeah, any last minute comments that we'd like to add right before I pass it on to Stacy to conclude us?
And anything, if you want to ask or put in the chat too, feel free. We definitely have some quieter folks on the call.
And of course, be patient with everyone. Like we've been mentioning, every experience is different. So understanding when you're talking to a pregnant person, understanding, you know, how they are in the sense that are they a little bit more sensitive, like watching what you do and say is really very important. So being observative and being a good listener, like we've been mentioning today, I think is really important. So yeah, and thank you so much everyone for attending this discussion and learning about this topic with us. I will now pass it on to Stacy to conclude.
Thank you so much, Hanali. I really appreciate your facilitation there, and so glad everybody can be here. Thank you for joining the movie and for coming back for the chat. It's very appreciated. Hopefully you found something useful in this conversation, and hopefully the movie as well. And we always like to say at the end of our events that whatever the topic is, in this case maternal health, it's never a one and done topic, but that we're always looking to, get more information, like Hanali talked about, that being a very important thing. So one of the things we will send you is our infographic, which we'll send with an email to you. So please check that out with more information, some of what we discussed today, but some additional items as well. And we encourage you to commit to one weekly action related to the theme of today, which is, maternal health. And so things like education can really bolster what we know about a topic and how we deal with those issues. So things like, what does PMAD mean? PMAD, perinatal mood and anxiety disorder, and like, what is that, right? And we can look that up. Or SMM, which means severe maternal morbidity. What does that mean? And, we can start to kind of look things up so we can understand what's out there. So that's PMAD was one of the terms, and SMM was the other one. But also just getting greater empathy, like Stacy actually brought in for us to mention with other people. As we learn more information, then we can have that empathy for folks who are in these kinds of situations. And so we can also get information, not just by looking things up online, but go out of your way to talk to somebody who is one of those healthcare providers that we talked about, Hanali talked about earlier. So talk to an obstetrician if you get a chance to, or a midwife or a doula like Stacy, and ask questions and find out more about, what those situations are like and experiences and such. So and we also encourage everybody to regularly check with your own healthcare providers, as well as encourage others to do that. Sometimes we think, oh, it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. And then there certainly could be risks associated with that. So we're going to actually put up a poll right now. Tyler's going to help us with that to let us know what you thought of this event. We appreciate you taking that. We're also in the next few days going to send you that email out. And if you'd be so kind as to fill out a survey that's in that email as well. The questions in that survey will not be the same as the ones you're getting right now. So we really do appreciate you taking that poll that's on the screen right now. And we are also deciding our topics for the next 36 events we are going to have. So please, in that survey, in that email we're going to send you, there's going to be an interest survey. You'll see the link there. It's going to help us decide what our next 36 events are. So if you have some ideas for this, for our organization that you would like to see us discuss, please do let us know and take that survey for us. It's a very quick survey, just like the one you're taking today. We appreciate it. Also, you can learn more about the events from Inform Your Community by checking our website out, www.informyourcommunity.org. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do take a minute to like and subscribe. Feel free to share our videos and our infographics with others as well. We are here to inform our communities. And our next event is a community policing event. It is not in this program that you're in right now, which is the Popcorn and Chat program, but it's in our children's crafting program. Even if you haven't registered already, feel free to sign up for that. And we will show you how to do the little Lego cape that we're making for our little Lego superheroes. We'll show you how to make that with your materials at home as well. So we do appreciate you coming to the event today. Thank you so much.